Do y'all remember 2 to 3 years ago inside of the Backrooms fanbase when there was a very popular creature named the Frowners? And some of you might have found out about them from a really popular short that I made on them a while back, and some of y'all might be very confused right now and are about to click away from the video because you have no idea what I'm talking about. But no matter the case, the Frowner entity has kind of a crazy history in the lore of the Backrooms. And today I want to go over the entire timeline, the entire story of this entity from the beginning to the Frowner's disappearance from all the wikis and probably the disappearance from your mind, and the current whereabouts of the Frowner. This is the sad and forgotten story of the Frowner entity. Leave a like if you enjoy videos such as this. If this video gets 7,000 likes, I will make a video about party poopers full stories, just like this one. Anyways, without more talking, let's get into the timeline and let's get into the video, shall we? So to start, I will explain the entity for those of you who are not familiar with it, and then I'll talk about the timeline of its vanishing, where it went, what happened to it, and then lastly I'll talk about its triumphant return to the wiki recently. Frowners themselves are the more passive and docile counterparts to Smiler entities in the lore. Of course, you've all heard of Smilers. They're one of the most famous, if not the most famous, entities in all of the Backrooms. Frowners reside on dark levels and in areas that lack color. So the corners of rooms, deep inside of levels, and in places where there's no sun or lights. You can easily tell if a Frowner is near you if you see a giant glowing frowny face off in the distance. You really can't miss it. Even an idiot would not mistake them. Frowners were known far and wide for being pretty chill and relaxed, and they were even known to approach wanderers in a curious way. They were very interested in what they did. Frowners were skittish, and they did get scared pretty easily. If you kind of moved around really quickly, they would run off, and they preferred to watch people from afar most of the time. From a rough estimate, Frowners appeared to be just about 6 to 10 feet tall, although we couldn't really see their bodies, just their frown. But since the frown was so high in the air, it was assumed that there was a body that made him that tall. Frowners were not very common in the Backrooms and typically were only seen really deep inside of certain levels. And like I said, they were pretty skittish, so if there was a bunch of people or if you scared them, they would not make themselves known. There were only 2 times in Frowners' existences when they would get violent or aggressive towards wanderers. One was if you scared one or you cornered it by accident, then the Frowner would probably try to attack you and get aggressive. And the other is if a Frowner was in the presence of a Smiler, because of course, Frowners are the opposite of Smilers. They do not like Smilers at all, and they would instantly be hostile towards them. In fact, that's probably the single thing that you all remember the most about Frowners is them being aggressive to Smilers and trying to run them off. It's like they had this kind of blood feud. And you might even remember an event that they were supposedly in, Smilers and Frowners, called the Face War. Now, in the Backrooms canon, in the lore from the Wikidot and the fandom, the Face War was an event that happened a while ago, and it was kind of similar to the Fun War. If you remember the Fun War, it was the battle between the party goers and the party poopers. Well, the Face War was kind of the battle between the Frowner and the Smiler. You might think that sounds stupid and silly, and it might, but it still happened nonetheless, and it still is a part of the lore that you probably remember. The battle itself was supposedly between large numbers of Smilers and Frowners that eventually saw the Frowners lose their home level, the place that they used to live. The level was only known as Level Frown, but after the events of the Face War, that level was lost to time and space, and we're not even sure if it even ever existed, to be honest. But the same can be said for Frowners. They too disappeared to space and time for years. In fact, the entity vanished from all records, all wikis, and any type of documentation, and it was completely gone in about mid-2022. And for over 2 years, while the Backrooms was blowing up, while more people were getting into the creepypasta, this entity was lost and forgotten about. Or at least that's the history that we all know right now. That all changed when, in mid-2024, the famous entity Frowners, Entity 3A, reappeared on the Backrooms fandom website under the exact same page link as the previous one. This time, there was more information about the Frowner that we didn't know, and more thorough documentation, and now we know where the creature might have gone, and more about its biology, its behaviors, and why it acts the way it does. So pretty much all I just told you was the entire timeline of the Frowner entity entity from its beginning to its disappearance to now its resurgence on the wiki. The Frowner entities, when they were in their popularity at the beginning of the Backrooms fandom, were one of the most popular entities. I can't stress that enough. I made a short about the Frowners that got like 3 million views or something. It was crazy. People seem to love the Frowner. They love the idea of it. They love this anti-smiler being that was super rare and almost never was seen. And when you look at a Frowner, the design of it, the entire personality of it, it's very Backroomsy. And not many creatures nowadays that are added to the lore have that same nostalgia feeling as the Frowner. And I'm sure many of you were sad when it disappeared from all mainstream Backrooms coverage. But now we have this new page of the Frowner entity that I will explain right now. And I'll give you all the new lore we have about it and more of the description that we've been given. The new page says that the Frowners were initially discovered in 1999 in a level called 246. Now, it's unknown if that level 246 was what people used to call level Frown, but I'm assuming that it is. At the time that they were discovered, Frowners were considered to be just a subspecies of smilers. And of course, several of those famous pictures of their upside down smile faces went pretty viral. But since those pictures were taken in the late 90s and the early 2000s, more concrete information has been found. In 2015, it was discovered that Frowners actually do have a body, and they're not just a floating frowny face in dark parts of the levels. They in fact have a body that is pretty similar to a large fox. Normal foxes from real life are tiny, of course, they're very small, but these Frowners seem to have a hairy body makeup like a fox. And the glowing frowny face that you're used to seeing is a defense mechanism that these entities use. With better quality cameras coming out, these images were taken of the entity that now show a canine body behind the frowning face. This frowny face bioluminescent glowingness that the front of the entity has, that we used to think was all the entity was, is just a way to scare off predators and a way to scare off smilers and stuff. It's like an intimidation tactic. Frowners are now thrown under the Class 3 difficulty danger scale because of their ability to be aggressive when they're startled. They used to be under the Class 1 because we really didn't know much about them. We kind of just saw them off in the distance, frowning in the shadows. But that's pretty much the new information that we have about Entity 3A, the Frowners. We know they have a body, we know their frowny face is some sort of defense mechanism, and we know they were discovered in the late 90s when we really didn't have the technology to see their body. So what actually happened to the Frowner entity in those years where they were lost to the wikis? And the unsatisfying answer that y'all might have heard coming was that we just don't know. Maybe the entities ran into hiding deep inside the complex of the Backrooms. Maybe they lost their home level actually, and they attempted to adapt and we just didn't notice. Maybe they're scared of how ugly we all are, I don't know. But what we do know is that Frowners have been seen more and more recently, and they've been documented at a higher rate in the recent years. They're back now, and the legend of the Frowner entity in the Backrooms, the opposite, the anti-smiler, will live on for the foreseeable future. Frowners themselves are a perfect example of an entity in the Backrooms that, to me, does not ruin or water down the lore. A lot of people seem to think that creatures and entities in the lore kind of muddle and muddy the waters of the Backrooms. They kind of take away from what it's meant to be. Well, the Frowners are such a rare and never seen entity, really. They're almost never encountered. They just add this level of mysteriousness and this unknown aspect. I mean, imagine being really deep inside of a very dark level, like thousands of levels into the Backrooms, walking down some empty hallway you haven't seen any form of life in days or weeks or months, you don't know how long. And off in the distance, you see this glowing, frowny face. It would probably be really scary, right? It'd be terrifying. You wouldn't even know if it's real, if you're hallucinating, you wouldn't know anything. But it doesn't attack, it just watches and it just waits, far off in the distance, right out of reach, the frowning face staring at you. People seem to forget that it wouldn't just be humans inside of the Backrooms. If this complex is so big and it is so powerful that beings from reality can fall into it, we can assume that beings from other realities, or even ones that we don't know about from our own reality, can also get sucked into the Backrooms. So it makes sense that a rare entity or two, like the Frowner, they would live just like we would, and they're probably just as scared of us as we are of them. I've always loved the Frowner, and I'm super glad to have it back. Leave a like if you're glad to have it back in the lore as well, and leave a like for the Frowners. Thank you for watching the video until the end. If you did enjoy this kind of like retrospective video, leave a like. Like I said, I really do enjoy making them, so if you want to continue to watch them, I'll make more about like the party poopers and the full history of them and all their stuff. I just really enjoy looking at how the entities have changed and molded and grown throughout the years. So if you enjoyed that, leave a like and tell me in the comments below. I've said leave a like a billion times. Sorry about that. Just tell me in the comments if you enjoy. You don't have to leave a like. But thank you so much for all you do. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for your amazing support. I love and appreciate each and every one of you. I can't wait to show you what's coming this December. Broogmas, of course, is right around the corner. I know y'all are hyped about that. I'm super excited. Thank you so much for all you do for me. With all that said, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.